Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us on KREM 2 News First at 4. I'm Tom Sherry.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Whitney Ward. Tom, we want to get straight to the weather because you just go outside and you can tell that it is trying to snow. What kind of time frame are we looking at here?
Yesterday, I thought about 8:30. Now it's looking closer to maybe like 11 o'clock at night. And now we have winter weather advisories that have been issued for Spokane. But over in Coeur d'Alene and all of northern Idaho, most of northern Idaho, it's a winter storm warning. That's in effect through Friday at 4 p.m. We'll look for the winter weather advisory that we're expecting here in the Spokane area and all those other areas that you see shaded in blue. That also is going to go in effect until Friday at noontime. Again, the snow looks like it will begin falling late this evening in the overnight hours. Maybe up to 2 inches of snow expected in the Spokane area. Could see up to 3 inches of snow overnight up in the Sandpoint area. And you can see by the Doppler radar, very quiet right now. Here's a look at the current conditions, and actually very calm. We've got 35 degrees. You've got a little bit of sunshine out there, as you can see, some of that sun on the hills to the north of Spokane. So here we go. Snow developing late this evening. It will continue overnight. Look for very slippery roads tomorrow morning. Snow through the mid-morning hours. And then as we start warming above freezing, I think it's going to change over to rain, or at least a rain-snow mix, as we look for a daytime high of 39 degrees. It's going to be a really blustery day. For the weekend, I've got windy weather on Saturday with snow developing Saturday night. Sunday, mostly cloudy, and again, more snow developing in the evening hours. We'll look at that 7-day forecast coming up in a few minutes.
All right, Tom, thank you very much. Also, another big story that we are tracking right now. In just over an hour, Governor Jay Inslee is going to address the entire state of Washington alongside his wife, Trudy. He'll be giving a speech about the coronavirus pandemic.
So as for exactly what he's going to be saying, that's why we're bringing in our political reporter, Casey Decker, to discuss tonight's appearance. Casey, can you give us any insight?
Yeah, Tom, Whitney, what we know so far is that the governor is not going to be announcing any new policies about the coronavirus tonight. This speech is going to be more about just moral leadership, urging Washingtonians to redouble their efforts to stop the spread of COVID-19 by more strictly following the protocols that already exist. This following a record week for the pandemic in Washington. The state has now reached more than 120,000 confirmed cases. Before November, the highest number of new daily cases in Washington was 1,057 on July 6th. Since November, that number has been exceeded 5 times. On November 5th, the record was absolutely walloped with 1,489 confirmed cases. Locally, we've seen similar issues, Spokane nearly doubling its previous record. We had 347 cases just last Saturday. So clearly, not only have we not flattened the curve, we've let it shoot back up. That's obviously a big problem, and Inslee is considering taking new action to address it, but not today. The governor is expected to tell the public he has been considering new restrictions. That decision could come as early as Monday. But for now, he simply plans to remind everyone not to get complacent. Now, one big thing he is expected to talk about is Thanksgiving. The governor is going to remind people to avoid large gatherings, to keep your dinner table to just the people who live in your house. If you don't do that, we could have yet another surge of holiday-related cases. We'll hear from Inslee at 5:30. For now, back to you in the studio, Tom, Whitney.
Well, a developing story that we're following, and it's a disturbing story. Scraps is investigating a case of animal abuse right here in Spokane. The shelter posted this picture on Facebook asking for help finding the person responsible for an animal protection officer who found 7 puppies yesterday in a plastic bin on the side of the road. They were all terrified, freezing, and badly neglected. Scrap says it immediately hospitalized 2 of those puppies who were in critical condition. Both of them died hours later. Anyone with information on these puppies is asked to call Scraps. That number is on the bottom of your screen.
Well, as this COVID-19 pandemic forces some Coeur d'Alene teachers into quarantine, the school district says it's having a hard time finding substitutes now. They're down over 24 subs. The district says its pool was actually already low to begin with, since some substitutes who are older and maybe more at risk opted not to even fill in at all this year. School leaders are now actively working to hire more substitutes, but all of this comes after the district just last night announced a couple big changes because of rising coronavirus coronavirus case numbers. Starting later this month, Coeur d'Alene middle schools will go back to a blended learning model. That means students will be splitting the number of days they're actually in the classroom. Meanwhile, one of the district's elementary schools had to switch to online learning only because of teacher shortages. Across the district, 91 staff members are out after either testing positive for the coronavirus or having to go into quarantine.
An update in the coronavirus cases. The Spokane Regional Health District is reporting 216 new coronavirus cases today. 160 new cases and 1 new death were reported yesterday. A total of 75 people are currently hospitalized. What is troubling about our local data is our positivity or percent of positive test rate. Now, statewide figure sits at about 4.9%, but here in Spokane County, we're at 12.4%. Now, the goal, which was established by the state, is to be at less than 2%.
In the meantime, in Whitman County, 48 new cases have been reported just in the last 24 hours. 1 new death also reported. We're told it was a man over the age of 80. To date, 20 people in Whitman County have died from the virus. 5 people are currently hospitalized.
Well, the Board of Spokane Regional Health District voted last week to fire Health Officer Dr. Bob Lutz. That decision came following a variety of professional misconduct accusations about Dr. Lutz from his supervisor, Amelia Clark. Dr. Frank Velasquez has been named the interim health officer, so let's break down the timeline. On October 30th, SRHD sent out a press release saying that Dr. Lutz had been asked to resign. Then on October 31st, Dr. Lutz spoke for the first time since the health district's announcement. He announced that he was not resigning. On the same day, protesters gathered outside the health district's offices to show support for Dr. Lutz. And then on November 5th, the board held a special meeting to decide Lutz's fate. Lutz and his lawyer argued the allegations were trivial compared to the importance of having a health officer during a crucial time in the rise of these cases. The board voted 8-4 in favor of Dr. Lutz's termination. Well, the same night, they unanimously approved a new interim health officer, Dr. Velasquez.
So I had a chance to talk one-on-one with Dr. Frank Velasquez earlier today. He wanted to be very clear. He did not ask for this position, he said, but he will give it 100% of his effort. And he says that does include working with controversial Health District Administrator Amelia Clark. Take a listen.
How do you plan to work with the administrator, Amelia Clark, moving forward so as not to repeat some of the same things that happened under Dr. Lutz?
So I didn't know Amelia until Friday, actually. Personally, I know the name. And what I bring to the table is having had the opportunity to meet new people in many states, many times, in many organizations. I always do it the same way. I sit down and we have a conversation. Let's make sure that we know what we're doing, and you tell me what you expect. I'll tell you what I expect. We'll communicate, we'll agree, we move forward.
I also asked him a lot more questions today about schools and restrictions that may be needed moving forward, as well as the role politics seems to be playing in public health. So we'll have more from Dr. Velasquez coming up tonight on KREM 2 News at 5 and at 6.